Good evening, listeners, brave navigators of the enigmatic and the concealed. Have you ever felt the pull of the unanswered, the allure of the mysteries that shroud our existence? For more than a decade, a unique comic publisher has dared to dive into these mysteries, unafraid of the secrets they might uncover. This audacious entity is Paranoid American. Welcome to the mystifying universe of the Paranoid American podcast.
Launched in the year 2012, Paranoid American has been on a mission to decipher the encrypted secrets of our world. From the unnerving enigma of MK-Ultra mind control to the clandestine assemblies of secret societies. From the awe-inspiring frontiers of forbidden technology to the arcane patterns of occult symbols in our very own pop culture. They have committed to unveiling the concealed realities that lie just beneath the surface. Join us as we navigate these intricate landscapes, decoding the hidden scripts of our society and challenging the accepted perceptions of reality.
Folks, I've got a big problem on my hands. There's a company called Paranoid American making all these funny memes and comics. Now, I'm a fair guy. I believe in free speech as long as it doesn't cross the line. And if these AI-generated memes dare to make fun of me, they're crossing the line.
This is your expedition into the realm of the extraordinary, the secret, the shrouded. Come with us as we sift through the world's grand mysteries, question the standardized narratives, and brave the cryptic labyrinth of the concealed truth. So strap yourselves in, broaden your horizons, and steel yourselves for a voyage into the enigmatic heart of the Paranoid American podcast, where each story, every image, every revelation brings us one step closer to the elusive truth.
Bob, where are your two favorite Spartans? We're coming in, and we're actually, as a surprise, me and Owen are going to be battling to the death on this live stream. It's going to be a little bit rough because we're not even in the same state, but we're going to figure out a way to do it somehow. Did you get your USB dagger that I sent you in the mail? You just plug it in, and it'll just start stabbing you at random intervals.
Perfect,
So,
dude.
welcome. This is Owen Hahn, a.k.a. Bootsy Greenwood. One of the funniest persons that I know on the freaking planet, that I'm allowed to say. And yeah, like I was talking to you that I'm going to be doing a bunch of Kubrick live streams. And you're like, oh, I love Kubrick. How about Spartacus? I was like, hell yeah, how about Spartacus? But why Spartacus, man? Tell me.
Dude, it's one of my favorite movies ever. It's my probably second favorite Kubrick movie. First, obviously, the moon landing, right? But, you know, it's the story of the indomitable human spirit, man. It tells you everything that you need to know about authority and the truth about the internal drive of a human being and someone who sticks to principle and is actually just. It's such a great movie. I strongly recommend it. Honestly, one of the best movies I think ever made.
What about Spartacus versus Gladiator? Where are you at?
I'm gonna have to take Spartacus just by a small shield, you know.
Is it because of the gay stuff?
Definitely.
So, I mean, that's kind of the underlying theme, at least on a certain aspect of it. So, and I gotta say that my first introduction to Spartacus, I'm biased. I like it because it was shown to me, I think, in a world history class, and I really hated that particular class at that time. Go figure. Teachers ruin everything good. But I distinctly remember we had a cool ass substitute, and he was just like, hey, we're going to be watching Spartacus this week. And I say this week because it's over 3 hours long of a movie. So he would show like the first third and then another third, another. So it was like the entire week. And I still look back fondly at him wheeling in that little AV cart, dating myself, and then putting Spartacus on for us to all watch or sleep to or whatever. I ended up watching it. And he was like real jazzed about the big fire logs. And we'll get into all that stuff. I got some screenshots that we can look through. But when did you see Spartacus?
I think the first time I saw it was around 2012, 13. I was really just starting to see the world in a new way. And Spartacus like really hit me straight in the heartstrings. I really identified with the character and the slaves, because he leads a whole revolution of people. Of course, we'll get into all that, who are, don't have the same resources as the authoritarian structure. So it really spoke to my heart, and it's something that has stuck with me for some years. So I was really excited to watch it again anyway. And I spent the whole day just enjoying watching. I had to watch it in segments too, but I was getting choked up, man, all day. It was beautiful.
What did you get choked up at? I mean, I love the movie. I don't know if I like went through any major emotions watching it.
I mean, it's just I've always been a big fan of the underdog, you know? So every single time, and the character himself, Spartacus, is so resilient and he's so compassionate, right? Like he doesn't become one of them, right? He maintains his integrity throughout the whole entire movie. It's like, I probably would have slit that pirate's throat. You know what I mean? Like, I think I would have been on the same page with Spartacus, but like whenever they're making the Romans fight each other, he stops that whole thing. And he's like, no, we're not going to become like they are. And man, that just, oh my God, it's so beautiful to me. Like, I love that it's portrayed in such a way. It's very pure, and it sticks to its principles.
I like that scene. I mean, it's basically the first huge pivotal moment in the scene when he does that. He breaks. So I guess for anyone that's not familiar with Spartacus, we can give like a slight little breakdown. Again, 3-hour movie. It's going to be really hard to summarize succinctly because a lot of stuff happens. You've seen Gladiator. You've kind of seen Spartacus in so many ways. But it's about a slave from Thrace, or a bunch of them rather, but Spartacus, that has to fight as a gladiator for the Romans. And then he goes, no, I don't want to. And then everyone else is like, yeah, we're not going to do it anymore. And then he just goes and gets a bunch of other slaves and says, we're going to get the hell out of Italy. Like, we just hate Italy, period. This country sucks. Like, we don't want to fight. We don't want to take it over. We don't even want like any of your stuff. We just want to get the hell out of here. And then the Romans are like, no, this place is awesome. You can't go. And then the movie kind of ends. I don't know. Was that a decent summary?
Yeah. I mean, I could give mine too, at some point. Maybe. Okay. Well, I mean, it's the whole thing starts with this slave, and they're a cold open, right? Like they're carrying rocks on a rucksack, and this slave just collapses because he's so exhausted. And then Spartacus comes up, throws his rucksack off, and goes to help the other guy. So because of his insubordination, he gets locked into a chain, and this guy who buys slaves comes up, and because of his insubordination and the toughness and resilience of Spartacus, he's like, I want to buy this slave. I'm going to turn him into a gladiator. So then he takes him to the gladiator pit, and then Spartacus tries to make friends with this one really big black guy from Africa who's this really scary gladiator. And the guy's like, I can't be your friend. I might have to kill you. And so a little bit of time passes, and this really noble Roman comes to hang out with this slave owner guy. And he's like, well, we want to see a couple of fights to the death while we're here. Let's let the ladies pick, right? And so the ladies pick. Yeah, And so the ladies pick, and of course they pick Spartacus versus this big guy who told him he didn't want to be his friend. And they're in the pit fighting to the death. And this guy's got Spartacus beat. He's got the like Triton. Is that what you call it? Triton?
Yeah.
Up against his neck. And then all of a sudden, this dude says, fuck it. And he just hucks the trident at the the spectator Roman rich people, and then starts going after him. Well, they kill him. But then that starts a whole entire riot with all of the slaves, and they overtake the whole entire like slave plantation or whatever. And those people escape. So then Spartacus leads this entire army of slaves, and then they just pick up more slaves as they go to each city. And yeah, they're trying to get out of there. At first, they're going to attack Rome. They make a deal with some pirates, and the pirates are like, yeah, we'll take you, but for like all these millions of dollars. And they're like, well, we've got all this booty, dude. Check it out. So ultimately, they hike all the way down. They fight, and they just continue to add to their band. And when they get to the end of the boot of Italy, like on the map, they're about to meet up these pirates, and these pirates get like blackmailed or whatever, or bought off.
Pirates.
Right. And so they're like, sorry, dude, no ships. So they were going to get out of Italy and escape, but ultimately they aren't able to. So they're kind of stuck there. Now Rome comes in and they march, because this dude who was watching the whole thing wants to become the dictator of Rome. So in order to stop Spartacus, he says, I'll stop Spartacus, but you have to make me the dictator of Rome. Well, of course, Spartacus falls in love along the way with this lovely woman, and he and her really hit it off. And then she gets pregnant. So at the end of all that, the Romans do beat the slaves, and they capture everyone who's left. And they say, we'll keep you all alive if you'll just point us out to Spartacus. So Spartacus is about to stand up, but then his assistant stands up before he does, and he goes, I'm Spartacus. And then another one saying, I'm Spartacus. And then another one, I'm Spartacus, I'm Spartacus. So they all say they're Spartacus. So they're just toppling over, just fucking with the, power guy, right? And so they hike him on, and they're like, we're going to crucify all of you until you tell us who Spartacus is. And no one bends all the way to Rome. And so they finally get to Rome, and they make Spartacus and his, best man kind of guy fight to the death. And his wife gets taken as like a slave again by the dictator guy of Rome. And yeah. And so they fight to the death. Spartacus is like, I'm not going to let you get crucified. He kills the guy. They crucify Spartacus. And then one of the senators makes a deal behind the back of this fascist dictator guy to get Spartacus's wife and baby out of there. And he winds up killing himself because he knows he's, betrayed Rome or whatever, but he did the right thing somehow. And so as they're leaving with the original slave owner taking his Spartacus's wife and baby out to be safe, Spartacus is crucified, and he had earlier said that he would never be able to see his son, and he actually gets to see his son, and they get out of there, even though Spartacus dies. So what I love so much about this movie is kind of like the Bhagavad Gita, because if we take this whole entire story and internalize it, it's like being born again. That's why it makes me cry. So, all right.
And just for the overzealous YouTube AI censors that are already scouring this transcript, we're talking about white slaves, so it's okay. You know what I mean? That this is regular old white slaves from history. So, and we're allowed to talk about this because these are RN. So when you're looking for and let me preface this, a white slave, what are you looking for in a white slave?
Strong back and a weak mind,
Right. So why the hell would you pick Spartacus if you got this guy that's clearly resistant to authority? What in the right mind? What kind of slave owner would be like, I want that one?
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, there's a lot of plot holes. Some of the guys have British accents, some of them have English accents, but they're in Italy. There's a lot of stuff here. We got to suspend some disbelief. But again, I think the metaphor is to be internalized, and it demonstrates really the strength of a human being overcoming challenges, overcoming their self. The wickedness that we have to face inside our own psyche. So that's what's so beautiful to me. We crucify the old and the new lives on. Posterity is born free. And there's some beautiful quotes. He says that the free man dies and he loses his pleasure, but the slave dies and he loses his pain. So, I mean, there's so many like little gems and nuggets in the movie that are so empowering and inspiring. I know I just summarized the whole movie. But I still encourage people to watch it. And I don't know, maybe it won't be as impactful to them as it was to me. But I mean, at the time, the first time I watched it, I mean, it just did a number on me. And ever since, I've just absolutely loved the movie. So hopefully people will.
And why are we doing Spartacus? Was because it's technically a Stanley Kubrick movie, and being technically right's the best kind of right. But this one kind of gets left out of his repertoire because he himself somewhat disowned it. And I don't know if it was because it was a bad movie. And I don't think it was a bad movie at all. In fact, I thought that was a great movie. But I think that this movie's been cited as Kubrick. He got brought in early on in the process, but he ends up taking over because Kirk Douglas is like, get this crew out of here. Like, we need a real pro in here. And they get Stanley Kubrick in charge. But Stanley Kubrick, since he didn't start from day one, he didn't get like full authorization over the script and all the changes. So he didn't get to do his Kubrick thing. And in fact, there might not have even been like a Kubrick thing at this point, or he hadn't fully gone into his final form, right? He hadn't Pokemon himself into his master form. But this movie, I think, helped convince Kubrick, I'm never touching another movie again unless I have absolute, like, Gracchus style, make
Right.
me dictator of Rome, and then I'll do this thing. Otherwise, I don't want any part. And this is the movie that kind of dictated that whole thing. So that's why we're doing it. It's technically a Kubrick movie in a very real way. And I think another part too is that Kubrick movies, he's known to be overbearing with his attention to detail and making people shoot scenes. And I did a show recently with PJ from Conspiracy Pilled, and we broke down The Shining. And he made a really good point. There were some scenes in there that they had planned out for 6 months, just figuring out how the scene was going to be composed and what they were going to shoot, and all the different things that went into it. And then it was, I think, like a 3 or 4 minute scene, and it took them like 14 hours to shoot.
Hmm.
So the point being is that they would spend 6 months planning, 14 hours shooting, knowing they're going to get about 3 minutes of usable material here. So the amount of planning that goes into this, and also this level of, oh, I wonder if Kubrick just arbitrarily forgot that there was a chair in the background here. No, he didn't. Well, that's the consensus, is that no, he wanted that chair to be there, and then he took the chair away, and he wants you to notice that it's there and it's not there. But this Spartacus movie has so many damn Easter eggs or like goofs that happen throughout. I don't know if you've seen the versions that had some of these, or if you've heard of any of these, but there's a huge freaking list of them. For example, there's a scene where Antonidas, who's kind of like the little twink slave boy for Gracchus, he shows up on horseback, but under his tunic, he's got trousers, like non-Roman trousers, just like modern, 1960s trousers on. And this is the scene when Spartacus is opening this big treasure chest. And then all of a sudden, now when he's opening the treasure chest, Antonidas doesn't have the trousers on anymore. So I don't think any of these are that Kubrick magic where he's like, I'm going to make people think, you know what I mean?
No.
There's also a scene where there's a truck that drives by as all the slaves are like gathering, like an actual truck drives by in the background. I'm pretty sure that one's been painted out by now. There's another one where they show some of the slaves, and one of them has like a modern wristwatch, like a 1950s or 1960s metallic wristwatch, which I don't think, if it was the Roman one, it would have a little sundial on it, right? It'd be like a little stone sundial watch.
There were a couple of times I was expecting somebody to take out a cell phone, and just snap a couple selfies,
That's the closest that I think it comes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, there's definitely some goofs in there, but it's shot beautifully on the film. And the film was, I think, new to Kubrick too. The way that they shot it was different somehow than he was used to. And yeah, he was kind of thrown on it later. And the guy who wrote it was that guy, Trumbo. He was like a kind of one of the Hollywood 10 that was completely like blacklisted from Hollywood for being a communist, I think, or something, or potentially.
All the good movies are communist. You got to admit that as some
dude.
point.
I mean, they're good at branding. Their marketing is on point. But yeah, I mean, it's it's an interesting like mismatch of things. But I think that the story and the hero's journey that's like really well highlighted in it comes through very, very well.
So I guess my entry point into Spartacus is, this is kind of being the ultimate, I'm not going to clean my room movie. Like, I'm going to stand up to the powers that be. Early, I guess that was the age when I first saw it. It's like, I am Spartacus. I was a single child though, so no one else said it with me. So it's kind of, this is actually one of my favorite tropes too. You'll just see it in like a random cartoon or like a random movie, and someone else, they'll do the thing where it's like, who spilled the ecto cooler in the cafeteria, and all the kids are like, I did it. I love that particular trope, but also I've never seen it work in person. And in fact, rewatching this movie, it kind of shows you it doesn't work, because the deal that Gracchus was essentially giving these people was, hey, if there's thousands, tens of thousands of you out here, and I'm not going to punish anyone. In fact, I only want one person, and that's Spartacus. And if you just tell me who Spartacus is, then everyone else gets to go home, and you don't have to be slave. Like, none of it. You know what I mean? And Spartacus stands up, like you said, and he's like, okay, here I am, Spartacus. But then Antonidas says it, and then like everyone else says it. If no one else said it, they all would have went home, and Spartacus would have been the only one that ends up getting crucified, right? But everyone would have been sort of kosher at that point. So, I mean, was it smart or stupid to do the whole thing?
Well, I think the whole idea is that, if you're a slave, like you're living.
White slave. Let's be respectful. If you're a white
Okay,
slave.
if you're a Roman slave, right?
Okay, there you go.
Like
Well, he was actually from Thrace, but whatever.
But I like what is the quality of life? Like the idea is that it's better to die a free man than to live the life of a slave. Like that's the little nugget in there. And maybe that's true or not true, whoever's opinion it is. But the fact that, and I think it's a different time too. Like people are just kind of bitches now. Let's be honest. They don't stand for as much. I think people stood for principles a lot more if we go back decades, right? And so it was probably a little bit more relatable. This is a time when people stood up for things. And I don't think people generally do that very much anymore.
And yes, shout out. I absolutely agree that Kirk Douglas was a badass. He was perfect for the role. In fact, he cast himself in the role. Like it was his movie. You know what I mean? He was producer of this movie. He's the one that hired Stanley Kubrick to finish the directing. So he knew he was a badass. He knew how cool he looked, and that it was the perfect role for him. And just good on that man for just putting chins on the map. I don't think anyone cared about chins until Kirk Douglas came around. It's almost hard to look at sometimes. I wonder if like you could pop it. You know what I mean? Like if it's like an inverted nipple that once he gets pregnant, it'll poke back out. You're just waiting for the mammary glands to soak it up.
That's actually what my chin looks like. That's why I have this beard.
You gotta milk it every once in a while, keep it nice and vert.
Right.
The other thing too is that there's certain parts where I guess I had to suspend my disbelief. For example, after Spartacus and the rest of these Roman gladiators, they take over the Roman gladiator training camp, right? After that one scene that you mentioned, that was kind of the very beginning of it, and then all hell breaks loose. And when we go back to them, we see that the gladiators have captured these two Roman nobles, and they're forcing the Roman nobles to fight each other. And that's where Spartacus shows up, and he's like, "No, you're not doing this. I don't want to see anyone fight ever again." And I guess collectively they're just like, all right, Dad. And then they all get together and they start marching, right? That's the first part. I was like, wait a minute. I know people. People don't act like that. You know what I mean? If you've got like hundreds of dudes like screaming, yeah, get them. And they've got revenge and they literally see blood. Like blood is in the water.
Yeah.
I can't imagine these Roman gladiators just going like, Dad's here. All right, tell everyone that they got to go home now. It seems like that wouldn't really be the case. But this is based on a true story, the whole Spartacus thing. Spoiler alert if anyone didn't know that, but this is based on the real story of Kirk Douglas growing up and making his way through. Now, but before Kirk Douglas was alive, there was a real Spartacus. And I guess this story is sort of loosely based on his travels, although I don't think we have anywhere near the level of detail that they kind of portray here. So there's a lot of gaps that kind of get filled. But it was 73 BCE. A lot of the other characters that make an entrance kind of relate to real characters. The only one that is sort of top billing that I don't think had a 1-for-1 was Antonidas, the Roman twink juggler magic guy, which is also probably the coolest role in this whole freaking movie, right? Because everyone else is either a senator or on the way to be an emperor, or they're a gladiator, or you're a twink that juggles and sings. Like he's literally the most unique character in the entire movie.
Yeah, he's great. I mean, and he's like, I want to fight, and they're like, okay, buddy, that's adorable, that's so cute. But I mean, in the end, I mean, he gives it everything he does. We never see him juggle, but he's a good singer, he's a good poet. We get to see all that, and he actually fights pretty well. It's pretty impressive.
And the original story too, I found this interesting, but in the real Spartacus, it was about 70 gladiators, and they broke into a kitchen, and they ended up taking all the kitchen utensils and literally staged the whole real revolt historically with just random kitchen utensils, which I assume would include like forks and knives and stuff. But guaranteed there was someone out there with a ladle. I bet you there was a wooden spoon dude that was like laying down the law with that big wooden spoon. I mean, anything that you had to your disposal, and it only took 70 of them to throw this whole thing. And this legitimately lasted for a couple years. This wasn't like a quick endeavor. And I guess that he kind of had the best sales pitch, right? Spartacus's sales pitch was like, "Hey, you don't have to be a slave anymore." And people were like, "Okay, I'm in." Like that was the whole pitch, start and end. So I don't know if I ever had to go door to door selling stuff, I would definitely want to sell not being a slave. I feel like it's almost sells itself.
Dude, absolutely. Yeah, the pitch is easy. You don't even need a landing page for that. It's like, how about that with that one scene where he chokes that dude in like a bowl of chili? You know, he just like shoves his face in there, and people running around with ladles. That reminds me of my childhood a little bit. You know, it's like, well, was my mom part of this revolt? What's going on?
I don't want to cook anymore. I mean, again, we're just getting right back to communism. They didn't want to do work, and they were like, "Let's get out of here. We're gonna migrate out of here."
Exactly.
And so I wanted my best to try and link this to like the cult of Mithras and maybe even like Phoenician sort of mythology, because they are around somewhere like a century after the Second Punic Wars. So I guess at this point, the Phoenicians are sort of on the way out. So we don't get to talk to Phoenician pirates. We're like talking to the Sicilian pirates, but I think that it's kind of potato in a way. It's just like one sea-bearing merchant class usurped by another, but they probably share a lot of that same symbolism. So if we had to like just beat some kind of symbolism into this, it's that Spartacus and the rest of these Roman slaves, they want to get the heck out of Italy. And Italy's essentially at this point represented by the Mithraic rites, like the cult of Mithras, which is essentially just the Roman military. And this is in the very early days. This would have been like in the beginning century or even decades of the cult of Mithras. But the cult of Mithras is sort of the bull worship, the terrestrial worship in a cave. It's very much linked to the ground. And Spartacus and his crew, they want to get to the sea. So it's almost like a story of like Roman politics and being grounded there on the land and fighting for Rome. And they reference Rome as being like this mother that that some people want to bang and other people wanted to just like nestle into, you know, Rome's sort of bosom a little bit. And they all have their different approaches on it, but Rome is the land. So anyone that wants to leave is kind of seen as this like antithesis. And we also have a lot of links to magic because Antonius claims that he does magic and he juggles and he sings, but he mentions the magic. And there's an old lady too that they have like a short little scene, and they're basically surveying this town. And somebody makes the comment like, "Oh, there's a bunch of women here." You know what I mean? Like,
he's like, "There's too many women."
Yeah. And this old lady is like, "I'll have you know, Sonny." But then she mentions that she knows magic too. And I don't think that there's anyone else in this movie aside from Antonius and the old lady that make such strong claims that like, I know how to perform magic. And in her case, she's not talking about stage magic. Maybe Antonius is. So again, this kind of, to me, it reminds me of that the Phoenicians, their state religion was to do magic out in the open. Like magic was part of the state religion out in the public, not occulted. When the Romans basically took down Carthage and the end of the Phoenician Empire with it, that was also the last time that you were kind of permitted to do magic out in public, at least under the guise of like a state religion. At that point, it had to go underground into that cult of Mithras. So if there is one like symbolic tie that you can like weave through this whole movie, it's probably that. It's that all the people that want to do magic out in the open are the enemies, and they're trying to get back to the sea where they're still allowed to carry on this maritime Phoenician religion. But everyone else in Rome, they have to abide by like this new Roman set of laws, which is very political and almost, I want to say atheistic, because they're pagans, but it's definitely not Phoenician magic.
Man, that's awesome. I'm so glad to be able to talk with you about this, because like you're going to see things that I would never even pick up on. That is so freaking cool. I love that with the elements as well. And my first question to you is, like, at the beginning, I forgot to mention that Spartacus is getting like taken by one of the guards, and he bites him in the ankle. You think there's any significance to the ankle bite?
Oh man, maybe. I mean, yeah, I guess because the other part of this Spartan culture too, and Rome, I guess we'll jump around a little bit. and I've got some visuals. I'm not going to talk about this exact image right now. Here, actually, I'll hide it just for distraction. But I think it's also about embracing being pansexual or just being just straight up homo with the dudes. And because I guess the most iconic scene that I remember that everyone giggled at in school was that Gracchus, he picks out Antonius and he's like, "Oh, this little 24-year-old twink. Yeah, you're going to be my personal bodyguard." And there's a scene later in the movie when he's having Antonius give him like a sponge bath in his little like bathroom thing, and they're going on and on about snails and oysters and so here's the whole dialogue. I should have sent it to you and we could have played the whole thing out, but I'll monologue it. And this is Crassus and Antonius, and he's saying, "Do you eat oysters?" Antonius is like, "Well, when I have them, yeah." And then Crassus goes, "Do you eat snails?" And at this point, Antonius is like, "No, I don't eat snails." And then he asks him, "Well, do you consider eating oysters to be moral and snails to be immoral?" And he's like, no, of course not. He's like, "Yeah, of course, no, of course you don't. Of course you don't, because we're just talking about a matter of taste, not appetite. And because I'm talking about my personal taste and not my appetite, then it's not a question of morals, is it?" And he's like, "Oh, yeah, I guess so. Yeah, if you say so, then sure." And the first thing I think was like, no, that's not how that works at all, dude. You could replace snails with any other thing, and some of those will be very immoral, right? Like I don't know, baby seal, like a screaming baby. Anyways, what they're talking about though is clearly like, do you like dudes or girls? Yeah. Do you want to touch the little sea slugs together? Do you want to dock one into the other? And I guess my assumption, and woe on me for being overly assumptive here, but like Antonius is like, "Oh no, I grew up on those sides of the tracks. Like I'm a dancer, I'm a juggler, I got eyeliner on, check me out." Like you're reading the vibes right. And I think also that it was part of the like moral codes of the actual movie industry at this point that you couldn't really overtly say anything. So this was a little bit masterful, I get, maybe over the top of the head in retrospect, but I remember seeing this in school and no one told me, and I was just like, yeah, I don't like snails either. You know what I mean? Like I didn't know what the hell they were talking about. And after someone explained it to me in class, first I giggled a lot, I was like, "Oh, they're talking about gay stuff." But then I was like, "Oh well, that actually is like a interesting little analogy that worked," because it went way over my head the first time I saw it.
Yeah. I mean, it was. I don't even know. The first time I saw that, I probably didn't even notice. But like, in the end of that scene, he's talking to him, and he's talking to him. He's trying to like romance him, I guess, and talk him into doing some stuff. And he turns around and he's Antonius.
Yeah.
And he ran off. He's like, he might be into snails and clams and oysters, but he is not into you.
He got another match on Bumble and he was out of there.
He's like,
he was
"No,
like, "Oh,
dude.
my grinder just dinged. Hold on."
Yeah, that's right. I want some gladiator." Ding dong.
So I've got a few little screenshots, and if anyone's listening to just the audio version, we are going to describe the hell out of these pictures. You're going to be seeing this movie in your mind. Maybe not. Maybe. Yeah. I don't know if I can translate Kubrick directly into words on every single. So this is the first big battle that we see. Tigris, who's the guy on the left, the very respectable individual, and then we've got that white slave on the right that just doesn't. He's uppity. He doesn't do what he's told, and they picked him out for this. But Spartacus ends up losing this battle, and that's when he gets this trident kind of pointed at him, and Tigris is basically stops at that point and throws it, and he climbs, and the whole thing happens. And this all happens in front of Crassus, which is kind of like an interesting plot point later on, because when Crassus is asking everyone, "Who is Spartacus?" and everyone's standing up and he's like, "Oh God, I'm gonna have to kill you all." When he asked that, he actually saw Spartacus in person because he was there for this fight, and he was the dude that trident almost ends up hitting, but he doesn't remember. I mean, seeing two slaves fight, when you've seen 1,000, you've kind of seen them all, right? They all just kind of blend together a little bit. So he doesn't know who he is. So I thought that was like an interesting, just story-wise, for like the cinematic aspect of these nice little tying it all up. So you see him in the beginning, you see him at the end. Very much Gladiator too, man. Gladiator had that same sort of thing where, he sees the bad guy Joaquin Phoenix, I think, Emperor Joaquin Phoenix, and gives him a little thumbs down. We got that too in this exact scene.
Yep.
You see this lady that's like does the little thumbs down, which is again historically that's where the thumbs down came from. So yeah, if you're giving this a thumbs down, you literally are committing violence on me and my people of white slavery.
That's right. Yep. We're gonna find out.
What else we got here? This one I was like, oh, this is the hanged man. This is the guy that is not worthy of a crucifixion. So he needs to be hanged upside down and not upright. And this is Tigris. This is the guy that I would basically say he's the one that started the revolt. It wouldn't have happened without him starting it.
Yep, that's exactly right. If it wasn't for him, none of this would happen. He was the big domino, right? That like changed everything and really catalyzed the whole revolution. More him than Spartacus, really.
Isn't that just like Elvis stealing music from the predecessors, right?
Yeah.
So I had to take a picture of this one in particular scene where this is supposed to be one of these Senate houses where they all get together and they vote on important stuff. But there's a freaking black and white checkerboard floor, which is so completely out of everything. Like this is not part of the time period. Roman floors usually had crazy, intricate mosaic tile floors, not checkerboard floors. I spent way more time than I probably should have. So I was like, I don't think I've ever seen checkerboard floors in Roman art, and it's because there really aren't any. You might be able to find some where there's like a checker style pattern amongst a crazy other amount of, again, like very intricate filigrees and designs and stuff. But I am not aware of a single piece of Roman architecture that had like straight up checkerboard floors like this. So is this masonry confirmed? Is this Kubrick telling us early on about some secret insider information? Or did he just like checkerboard floors? I don't know, but it stood out directly for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's there's not a whole lot of, but yeah, I mean, I imagine that it might not even been Kubrick. It might have even been, one of the other people who was involved in it. I mean, how long has Hollywood sort of been under that sort of control of and some symbolism?
This might have been the reason that Kubrick was like, that's it, I'm doing it myself next time. Like you guys didn't know how to put that checkerboard floor in at all.
Right. We need more of this, more symbolism.
More but less. You don't move. the guy from SNL. And then also a little detail, if you look on the left here, these two dudes are holding these big fasci. And again, this is in the Senate. And you know what else is in our Senate? Look at that. It's two freaking Roman fasci. It's the same damn thing.
Whoa.
So the US Senate and the real Roman Senate, and even the Spartacus Masonic Kubrick version. But yeah, these fasci flank whoever is talking at any given moment. So it's kind of nuts to me that literally the exact same symbolism is still around on this empire. And there's a quote that I think I captured in here, but somebody's talking about Rome, and Crassus makes this comment. I'll paraphrase it, but he's like, Rome's not a country. Rome is like a thought in the mind of God. And it's almost like, yeah, you can't get rid of Rome because Rome hits on some weird, I mean, obviously there's the political aspect of Rome and the geographic aspect, but what they're talking about is that this propensity for essentially men to get together and vote on things and feel important is so integral to just the human experience itself that it has to be some archetype in the brain of God. So even if you wipe Rome off the map, they're going to keep coming back. They're going to keep bringing fasci back. Sorry, like the fasci are here to stay because I guess, people think that they're badass or something. I don't know. But I just think that's so interesting that you watch this and it's so removed in time, literally over 2 millennia ago, right? But it's kind of operates the same.
Yeah, dude. It's fascinating. I didn't even noticed that. That's a really good observation.
And at the end of the movie, I do have a screenshot of this. Spartacus actually grabs one of these fasci and he breaks it.
Was it the baton? It was the baton, right? It's the baton.
But the baton is also shaped exactly like a fasci, which is basically a bundle of sticks. And again, if there's this underlying theme that it's like Spartacus is like, no, I don't want to be gay. Like I don't even want to fight other dudes. I want to go back to my wife and to my family. Like I don't want dude on dude anything, fighting, love, none of that. So I think that as he grabs this bundle of sticks, which has another name that's eluding me, and he breaks it, it's like, no, I don't want to be a bundle of sticks.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. Like I said, man, I'm so stoked to be able to talk about this with you. Like the stuff that you will notice is so much different than me. I love it, dude.
And then here's a guy too that fascia is obviously his like massive member. Like he's kind of flexing on it, everyone. And if you think I'm joking, I'm only half joking, because there's also in The Shining that one scene where they go into the office that can't exist, and the guy's standing, and there's like a tray of papers on the desk, and a lot of people have read into like, oh, that looks like his thing, like it's his member. So I don't know, maybe there's another Easter egg with Kubrick movies where people always like, you know, they're showing off a little bit. So this is the one in Spartacus, that dude showing off in the background with his fascia. And yeah, and he's saying slave hunting's a dirty business. This could all, dude, this is almost like a white version of Django Unchained a little bit too, I would say.
Yeah,
right?
That's a good call. Yep.
Here is Caesar on the left, who doesn't really have a huge role in the movie. I think that he's here just to be like, oh yeah, you know, Julius Caesar is in the house, you know what I mean, after party, but he doesn't have a central role here, because this is all happening as Caesar's still coming up. But this is, I think, Caesar's first taste of power. I don't know, good guy or bad guy, Julius Caesar.
I mean, you know, it's hard to say, and it is a very, very quick and dirty cameo with Caesar. Like there's no real reason for him to even be in the frame. I mean, he's not part of the story, nothing. So it's just like a quick flash. It's pretty bizarre.
I think that they kind of needed him just so someone would be like, "What's a movie about Rome and you didn't have no Caesar in there?" So they were like, "All right, there's your Caesar. Okay, back on me, eyes on me."
Right.
Because they also kind of show everyone else as being the corrupt politicians, and he sort of stays outside of that. I don't know if there's a message in there, if it was just like we gotta have him in here. And again, all these freaking metaphors and allusions about Rome either being a mother or being some sort of a temptress. So he's talking to Caesar, and Caesar, I think, also sees Rome as like a loving mother, at least in this context. But then he's mentioned that Crassus dreams of marrying the old girl, to put it politely. So, you know, Crassus is one of those ones that wants to sort of adventure the rolling mounds of the countryside of Rome in a way that maybe Caesar wouldn't. I guess that's kind of the implication. He's telling Caesar here, like, hey, be careful. There's a lot of people that just want to take from Mother Rome. And then, dude, this guy is such a patsy. Like, this was the ultimate Lee Harvey Oswald story arc when they appoint this guy, and you're just like, oh, this is not going to go well for this guy. I had his name at the tip of my lips, but this, even the way that he acts, you almost know that he's not going to be able to do his job.
Yeah, and I mean, he really screws the pooch too. I mean, they ask him straight up when he comes back after he fails the mission, like, did you put a moat out? Did you do any of the, you know, things that we teach you to do as a leader of, you know, of these armies? And he's like, no, that we were fighting against gladiators or white slaves, right? So he's like, he was cocky, he was overconfident, he thought it would be too easy, so he didn't even do the necessary protocols that you would do if you were in battle with like a real army.
And I believe that this guy also ends up playing General Patton in Paths of Glory.
Wow.
Another Kubrick movie, which is also kind of interesting, but I might be wrong on this, but I think that Kirk Douglas also plays Patton in the movie Patton. So you've got this weird like Patton, Gracchus, Kubrick sort of like triangle forming around all this. They're all doing the Nazi salute. I can't even believe that they would do that back then. They must not have heard how horrible the Germans were.
Right.
And then so here's one of the scenes where, man, what a lineup. You've got 4 twins and 2 short old ladies. You know, who are you picking first? If you're picking your ultimate dream team of white slaves, who are you going for in this lineup here? It's
I mean,
Antonitis every time, right? He's the #1 draft pick.
no, it's true. He is pretty much undefeated there in that lineup for sure. I don't know, that older lady, is that if that's the one who knows how to do magic, she might have some skills, you know. She might be able to like look into a magic mirror or something. But
yeah, so he freaking like laser focuses on this little Antonitis twink from Sicily. Again, man, I think that there's like some Phoenician aspect to this where Rome is truly trying to dominate the rest of the Phoenician culture. And for the history buffs or nerds out there, people that don't care, Sicily was always a really important aspect of this. And it's not just that this is where all of the dark-skinned, Italians are from, and where they make spicy marinara sauce and stuff. But Sicily was important because it was strategically placed at, like, you would have to pass by Sicily if you wanted to get anything from Africa into Europe or vice versa. Like there was no way around it. It was sort of like the stepping stone on that chain. So anyone that controlled Sicily basically controlled this whole intersection of different cultures and trade routes and, for military strategies and stuff. So Antonitis being from Sicily seems important if we want to like put some symbolism deep into there, but that he literally, like, whoever controls Sicily controls all of Italy. That was actually seen that way for the longest time. So whoever controls Antonitis kind of has the favor of the gods on their side in some way. So he steals Sicily here. Right, Crassus steals Sicily, but Sicily doesn't want to be with Italy or Rome in this point. So Sicily breaks Antonitis, right, breaks off and joins Spartacus. It's like, let's get the heck out of here. So I thought that was interesting too. I don't get this scene. This one I watched a few times. I'm not 100% sure, but this is where Gracchus and Crassus, it's really easy to mix those two up, but Gracchus on the right here and Crassus on the left, and Gracchus is telling them about like his plans to take a few battalion and go after, and Crassus just yells like, "Great, merciful, bloodstained gods," and he gets really angry all of a sudden. And I think that the dynamic here is that Crassus wants to do everything in secret. He wants to be covert about stuff. He wants to do it underground and in the shadows. Again, this is almost like the cult of Mithras talking to this public religion where Gracchus represents. So Gracchus, he's got the big red cloak, and he's kind of the fall man. He's Lee Harvey Oswald, right? He's the one that's put out for the public to see. So of course Crassus doesn't like all these public displays that Gracchus is putting on, because Crassus would do it all in secret. And he says a few different aspects to him. So yeah, here's Gracchus. And he's getting like kind of like verbally lashed on this one. He's like, okay, crap, I did something wrong. So he tells them, are you not aware of Rome's most ancient law that no general may enter the city basically in lead of his battalion? Like you're allowed to go as a civilian, like come and go, but you're not allowed to enter Rome with like this whole army behind you if you're at the head of these armed legions. And the guys mention, well, Sulla did. And he's like, I don't care what Sulla did. I'm not Sulla's mom. You know what I mean? Sulla's parents can do what Sulla's parents want to do. But this is actually a really interesting note here, because Sulla, again, not to go too much on like a history tangent, but Sulla was known as like one of the more aggressive Romans when he was, taking people down. But he went up against Mithridates. I'm probably going to butcher that name. But Mithridates is significant because he's the one that would take little amounts of poison throughout his life, so that if someone tried to poison him, he'd kind of be immune to it. And they actually name that practice of feeding yourselves little bits of poison so that you can become immune is called like Mithridism or something. Huh. So anyway, that was Sulla's like arch enemy at that point. I thought that was noteworthy without going too much on a tangent.
Very cool. Yeah. It's like they say that people used to eat like little bits of poison ivy to make them immune. I've never tried it. I don't think that would work, but
well, that's why I microdose constantly. It's like I'm afraid that one time the CIA is going to come and try to MK Ultra me, and they'll be like, "We don't know, so we gave him a full sheet of like window pane government, but he's not reacting. So that's my goal all along, or at least that's what I put on my IRS forms when I write off all my acid as a tax write-off.
I love it, dude.
So yeah, again, dude, like Crassus is very much the guy that wants to restore this like secret Mithraic order to the rest of Rome. So he wants to restore these ancient traditions, and Gracchus is kind of he's just ready to go and play patsy for the rest of the masses. Like he doesn't really care about how things operate, and in fact, he almost shows himself as being a little bit naive here, where like he didn't think any of this stuff out. He didn't think how people would perceive it if he starts marching around. So he's telling them that like, no, you're going to have to do all this in secret now. You can't do this out in the public. So he tells them, he literally says, sneak out. You sneak out of Rome. Do it in the night. Don't do it in the day. Don't put on a freaking parade. Side tangent here, another really fun one, but the word Trump, like Donald Trump, actually derives from triumph, and a triumph wasn't just a victory. A triumph in Roman times, this was a huge parade that you would put on either when you were going to battle or coming back victoriously. They would put on a triumph. So he's basically telling them, like, no triumph, that this guy is a never Trumper, essentially. He's like, you got to do it all. And again, he wants to do things shadowy in the secrets. This is Kamala Harris, essentially.
Right. Just cackling behind the scenes.
I didn't get the capture that part, but he cackles in this movie constantly. And he tells them, see to it you don't have to sneak back in too. And this was almost like he's letting them know, man, like, you're probably gonna end up being a patsy, pay this no mind, but just here, put your fingerprints on this rifle really quick.
Right, exactly.
And
oh my God.
I like this scene. It doesn't really have a lot of dialogue, but it's the first time that Spartacus comes back to his old training grounds, and it's just completely empty. All of the gates are sort of open. Some of the training things have been like knocked over. And right after this one, it shows him training all his people, but they're not locked inside of like a little, area like this that has bars and walls up. They're out training in the middle of the fields and stuff. So this is very much like him taking the Roman way of doing things and then applying it in, like, I guess, a more open way. So again, here we've got like these pagan temples to the gods made out of brick and masonry. And when Spartacus brings it back to the people, all these slaves and the commoners, they're doing like nature magic. They're out hitting trees and stuff in the middle of bushes and grass. Like, where's grass? Show me one tree in this whole scene. So again, this is Rome paving over like these pagan mystery religions. Again, empty. This is the exact same scene. And even look at that rope that Kirk Douglas or Spartacus is looking at. That's the rope that Tigris was hanging from upside down. The exact same one in the exact same scene. So he comes back here, and again, he's like paying his dues. This is, oh crap, this is where it all started.
Wow.
Here's this. There's the scene where they've got these two Roman nobles that are fighting it out. And it is kind of funny how they totally look like, they're very effeminate. Like their outfits, the two Roman nobles are very effeminate. So again, he's like, no, we're not doing any more of this man-on-man action. Like, I'm sick of this. This is a Roman thing, and we don't do as the Romans do because they're not Roman, right? They're from Thrace, which is, I guess, like Greece/Turkey modern day. So these are like the Greeks and the Turkish people, which is, I guess, yeah, maybe the Greeks would be like, hey, I'm actually okay with this. Like, I've seen this before.
They're not young enough. They need to be. That's the problem, right?
Yeah. And he says, this is where he's like, no more gay stuff. I'd rather die than watch two men blank each other again. And you can fill in your own blank. Here he says fight to the death, but I really do think that the underlying premise of this movie is like, no, like two men aren't supposed to do things together at all. Like, he's kind of Mike Pencing it. If other men were Mike Pence's wife, I don't know, that might have been strained. And he says, where are we becoming Romans? Because they hate Romans. So joking aside, I guess this is the part where you kind of have some respect for Spartacus. This is that first pivotal moment when you're like, oh, we're not doing eye for an eye anymore, I guess. But he doesn't offer anything in its place other than dignity. And again, that's a hard sell. If you're in the middle of a bunch of like wild dudes that are drunk and they're screaming and they literally see blood sport happening in front of their eyes, and then you're just like, cut it out, guys. But they listen to them.
Yeah, that is a huge plot hole, but I love it because it's like, just because they do this, you know, we're not going to descend into, you know, this madness just because somebody else does, right? Like, I mean, think about like the old, you know, crazy cults back in the old, you know, like doing sacrifices, and it's like, no, we're not doing this. We're not going to descend into this display of whatever the elites think is fun, this blood curdling kind of weird, kinky, you know, putting people on display and having them fight to the death. Like, we're not doing that. I love that so much. And is it very realistic from a humanity perspective? Maybe not, but I still like it. You know, like like it's there's a lot of Christian themes here in this movie too. And I don't think that's a terrible thing from a values set standpoint.
Really good point by Abbott here. The twink, Antonitis. Now, like, we're just going to call him the twink for the rest of this episode. But the twink is like the jester, the real king who whispers in his ear behind the throne. So, yeah, Antonitis 1,000,000% in this movie. He could have played this totally differently and been that little voice in Crassus's ear and kind of could, you know, controlled him a little bit. But he didn't want that role, man. He was like, nah, dude, like, I'm not here to I don't know all the gay lingo. What would you call like an older Roman emperor partner? Is there a name for that within the gay community? I don't know. But yeah, I don't want this old Roman. What is it?
I don't know. Like a leather daddy. I don't know. That's a good question. Yeah, I mean, I like that he just preferred, I don't know, he just like he had very upright gay, you know, views and tendencies. He didn't want to be part of the darker established order, I suppose.
So probably the most pivotal moment in the movie, this is where it actually starts to tell you what the movie is going to be about. It's going to be about no longer fighting and revolting and resisting. And then this one dude, everyone knows this dude. Like, everyone's got this guy in their group of friends, and he's like, Spartacus is telling them, we should be like you guys are looking for wine when we should be looking for bread. It's like we should be looking how to, you know, for sustenance and how to prepare ourselves. But you idiots are just sitting here getting drunk and waiting for things to come and find you. And the dude here is like, you don't need bread if you got wine, which I mean, I think my dad tells me this all the time, where he's like, no, I didn't have breakfast or lunch, but this is just bread in a can. So it's like the same thing, right? So,
exactly right. What do they say? It's food has no beer value, but beer has food value.
Right. Exactly. It's just fermented food. So what's wrong with? Yeah. And that's this guy's explanation. But of course, you know, he's the drunk. So this is the guy that is speaking on behalf of all the other like ignoramus, naive people as this, you know, figurehead. Like not in the real sense, but like in a movie sense. It's like, all right, dummies, listen up. Here's you. Here's your dumbass that wants to get drunk. And then there's Spartacus telling you, like, no, we can't just go around and just get drunk. We actually have this crazy mission that we're all end up. He doesn't lead with we're all going to end up getting crucified, but if he would have, he might have gotten less people. But it's a little bit more riling than that. And then they're asking him, like, where the hell are we going to go? And he's like, to the sea. Obviously, they have to get out of this country. They don't want anything to do with it. And even if you were to figure out a way to make your way all the way up through Italy, like, you're still stuck in Europe. And, you know, no one wants to be stuck in Europe.
Yeah, I mean, if they had gone north, it may have been a completely different story. But, you know, they thought they would be able to count on the pirates.
Another classic blunder. If you're ever telling me about a crazy endeavor that me and you were going to go on, and you're like, all right, hear me out. It's going to be dangerous. No one's done this before, but I've got some friends that are pirates and they're totally going to help us. I'd be like, wait a minute. I don't know if I trust this plan. But this was putting all their eggs in one big pirate basket. So spoiler alert, this does not work out. You don't ever put all your eggs into the pirate basket.
And there's no honor among thieves, so you can't trust them.
I love this quote, but he just saying, have you noticed that the nastiest of tyrants are invariably thin? You've got these two fatties that are just like, aren't fat people the greatest? And the other guy's like, yeah, dude, fat dude, come on, fat people are the greatest. And he tells him corpulence makes a man reasonable, pleasant, and phlegmatic. So it's like, yeah, dude, like you want to be that soft, snuggly bear. Maybe so if we're within the Roman Empire, right? These are the guys that are like, you want to be a bear. You can be a twink like Antoninus, you can be a bear, or you can be whatever the Roman daddy archetype is that no one really like, dude, they can't even keep the twinks down. So no one really wants that aspect, but it's there. Those are like the three options you've got. So, here we are. This is the scene, in my opinion. And I didn't have to blur anything out because at this point in time, if you even showed a nipple, I think it was considered like porn, and they would just knock you out of existence until I guess Caligula comes around like 10 years from this.
Wow.
And then they're like, oh, okay, that's the line. But this is the non-Caligula movie. So he's telling him that you stole, Antonidas. Do you steal, Antonidas? Have you ever dishonored the gods, Antonidas? Like he's basically checking him for his kinks at this point. That's my understanding.
Yeah, he's checking to see what he's into. He wants to figure out like what he's down for, right?
You're 26. You come from Sicily. I've heard some crazy things about you Sicilians. So yeah, tell me more. And then he drops it on him, bro. Do you eat oysters? And he's like, yeah, dude. Everyone eat oysters. Oysters being vagina, I assume, right? And then he says, well, okay, yeah, do you consider eating of oysters to be moral and the eating of snails to be immoral? And I was thinking this too, like, I've eaten snails, like escargot, right? That's what we're talking about. All right, enough said, dude.
Yeah.
It's all just a matter of taste. That's all it is. And taste is not the same as appetite, and therefore not a question of, and I think this is kind of funny. No, it's not a question of morals. Morals are mushrooms. And then he's got the best sort of little view on Rome.
He's
and
like, yeah, come out onto the patio, have a glass of wine.
And dude, he's like laying it on thick. And at this point, Antonidas has already opened up Grindr, and he's already he's scrolling through. He's basically at like the RNC convention, right? Like the world is his oyster.
That's right, dude. He's like, this one's too thirsty, man. Like desperation's a stinky cologne, homie.
And you can tell that this is pre-moon landing Kubrick because this is a rear projection screen and or matte painting, and you can sort of tell. I don't know how easy it is to tell on a screenshot through a live stream, but essentially it's very flat. Like obviously the guys that are marching in their like Roman regalia, they're real. Those are like real dudes. The guy in the foreground's real, but I'm pretty sure it's maybe superimposed on top of this because again, Kubrick already mastered composition, like doing the super compositing through Dr. Strangelove. That was one of the big scenes when he's flying out of the bomb. So he had that in his wheelhouse. And then you can almost see in the background, these houses are painted. Like this isn't even a photograph or nothing. So it's just kind of like a matte painting background.
And I think they wanted to do like the studio execs, like they really wanted to do it cheaply and prove that they wouldn't have to like fly whole crews out to Italy and all that kind of stuff. Like they were trying to save money and they were fighting Kubrick a lot, which is maybe part of the reason why, he was like, well, I'm not going to get myself into some situation like this where I don't have any control over where we're shooting or any of that kind of stuff. Right.
He was like, guys, I'm going to drop about the moon. If you don't let me do what I want, I'm telling everyone. And then this was another part where they're again referring to Rome as either being like a mother or a lover. And again, Crassus doesn't see Rome as a mother. He sees Rome as like this conquest. So he always talks about Rome in these kind of like hypersexualized places. He's saying like, you must abase yourself in front of her. You must grovel at her feet. Like he's going right into like the humiliation kink rituals off the bat, right? And the other people don't think about Rome this way. They think about it like their mom. And then yeah, he gets ghosted. Antonitis swipes right, and he's out, bro. This is like so slick. And yeah, I mean, I don't know if he cares too much, but this was like his prize twink. So he makes some note of it later on. He comes across paths with Antonitis again. It turns into a whole thing. It gets awkward. And he's like, hey, remember that night? And you just kind of like disappeared. He was like, oh yeah, you're being thirsty. Here also is how Spartacus differs from how they were originally being trained, where he's telling the guys like, slow down, take your time, pay attention to what we're doing. And again, look, they're training with no barriers, no walls anywhere. The other one, it was very claustrophobic. And here we've got this wide open space. We even have a couple little trees back in the horizon line, but we don't quite have grass between our toes yet. That comes after they get over. So I think that this is him training the rest of the freed slaves / gladiators before they bring the old ladies into the mix. That's when they go out into the grasslands. And here's the scene where they're like, all right, we're going to have to fight to the sea. And if you don't, and if anyone doesn't want to join like this little party, you can just go back to being a slave, whatever. Like we're not going to hurt you. It's not like, well, now that you know, we have to kill you. You know what I mean? So everything was very voluntary. Like you could opt in to being part of Spartacus's little crew, or you could opt out of it. Again, just showing that he's like a noble, upright dude. And then someone notes like, hey, there's a bunch of women here.
Yeah, it's Spartacus who says it. There's too many women.
And then here's the lady that says that she can cast spells and brew potions.
Mm-hmm.
And he's freaking laughing at her.
He handles it so well. Like he's like really truly like, if you watch the scene and just the way he interacts too, it's a great example of like really good masculine energy, right? Like he's like he's appreciating her, he's loving on her, but he's not like falling into her like frame or whatever where he's letting her get him riled up. He's just like, okay, you have value, you know, we're happy to have you, you know, and he leans into her and embraces her, but he's never like, you know, freaked out or reactive. You know what I'm saying? That's another thing that I really love about this movie is the masculine feminine dynamic between he and his wife. I'm trying to remember, it's Irina, maybe something like that. And then, you know, he's just he really is the perfect character. He plays the role so freaking well.
Ancient world was all butt fun and cannibals.
I mean, this dude, he's cracking me up in the chat, dude. You were fucking on fire, bro. Killing it.
Have it, you're on fire, bro. Well, of course there's another Mason reference. Why wouldn't there be? It's a Kubrick movie. Illuminati confirmed. Yeah, and then you can just tell by looking. I mean, here, let's just. All right, we've got crusty old dude, crusty old dude, crusty old lady, crusty old dude, crusty old dude, crusty old dude, bunch of crusty old dudes. Who is this twink?
He's beautiful.
The only one that doesn't have facial. Well, okay, I guess this guy's got. He's also got that sick, like bare chest popping out.
Yeah.
Antonitis is basically like shaved to the skin, right? Like he's a slippery little twink.
Mm-hmm.
And he's asking, so I guess the concept of this scene is he's going around and he's asking all these different people, what do you do? Like, what good do you possibly have to offer this army that we're trying to escape Italy and essentially take on the legions of Rome? And they kind of laugh at him at first. You know, he's like, oh, I sing songs. And he's like, wait, wait, what? Like, what do you actually do? And he's like, oh, well, I also juggle.
That's the best line. I love I'm totally copping that. It's so funny. Like people are like, "Oh, what do you do all this? And what don't you do?" I'm like, "Well, I also juggle." That is what he says. But he's like, but I want to fight. You know, he legitimately wants to fight because you know what? He's like, dude, this whole snail thing. You know, I'm not gonna live it down. I want revenge for this dude coming on to me. I want to serve you, Spartacus, instead. And talk about masculine dynamic too. You know, it's very much evident in their relationship as well.
That's actually a really great point. Is that we clearly have this sort of like an effeminate man, right? And he's going to Spartacus, and he literally tells him because Spartacus kind of makes fun of him a little bit. Like everyone has a little chuckle, but this dude's serious and he's not offended by it because he knows that he's damn good at juggling. You know, like if you have this guy juggle, he's gonna knock your freaking socks off. But then they go to actually train, and Antonidas tells him, like, I want to fight. I don't want to sing. I don't want to juggle. I want to be this fighter like you guys would know how to do. But Spartacus tells him, like, no, you're not going to. You're not going to kill. You're going to have to teach other people how to sing songs. And
he
this
has,
is
yeah, I'm sorry, but he has that same kind of attitude where he's like, he doesn't fully take him seriously, but he's not like rude or like mean to him. You know what I mean? He's like just very settled and calm, but with like a little smirk on his face. You know, like it's a really awesome display of that dynamic, I think.
And so this is the guy basically saying, like, I don't want to be the singer, magician, juggler guy. I want to just be like a regular old warrior. And Spartacus makes such a great damn point here of that. I didn't get the screen capture like everything he says. I'll paraphrase part of it, but he's basically telling them, like, anyone can fight. Like, I can teach any one of these guys to fight. I could teach an animal how to fight. Like, every animal can revert back to this this sort of state of just being aggressive and fighting and lashing out. But Spartacus can't teach anyone how to juggle or dance or sing. So now this guy all of a sudden has like a really important and unique gift that he can bring everyone else. And he tells them there's a time for fighting and there's a time for singing. And they're literally, the time for singing is now, right? Because they're not under threat. They're not being attacked or anything. So this is the time that this juggler twink dude that can do feats of magic, like, this is his time to shine, is in this moment. And this is him boosting the morale of these troops. This is like an early USO tour, right?
Yeah, man. And it is. And, you know, it kind of like illustrates that there are higher art forms, you know, the beastly nature of man is like to fight and grow, you know, but it's like, dude, any of us could do that. But what you can do is uplifting and brings people joy and gets us into a higher state of consciousness is a beautiful thing.
And just to let you know, this is still modern day. Look at this. This blew my mind. I mean, I guess for some people that already knew this, it wouldn't be mind blowing. But when I joined the military, I remember at one point, like, we all got a break for one night, I guess. Like, we got to go back to the barracks. This is during basic training. And then we could go and it was like a Friday night, and we were just gonna watch this like Marine band come, and they played music and they played smooth jazz and they did show tunes. Like, I literally was sitting there like, what am I even doing? Someone was just yelling at me earlier, saying all sorts of things that I'll never repeat out loud. Essentially, it was like hate speech against me. And now I'm watching these Marines like literally dance around and do show tunes and singing. And then I was also like, damn, how come I didn't sign up for that gig? Like, why did I get wrapped up into whatever the hell I was doing? And every single armed service has their own like musical band group, just like band in high school gets you out of doing, I don't know, PE or some other thing that you don't want to do. You could also join the military, become part of like a band, and you literally are assigned to your own unit, and everyone in that unit plays music. And they kind of like, anyways, this is not something new. In fact, it probably, just like that Fashai and everything else, is based on historical fact that we've always had musicians in the military. Like, not just you happen to be a musician and now you're in the military, but you literally join the military and your job is to play music. So he's got a role. Even if he doesn't realize it, he's already got a role in the military. And then this one is like, gets really esoteric. I don't want to pick it too much apart, but Spartacus has been leading everyone. He has the answers. He has wisdom, but no knowledge.
Right.
That's kind of how I perceive this. Like,
Very good.
he knows how you should act, but he doesn't know how to read. He doesn't know how to write. He probably doesn't know anything about symbolism. But he inherently knows things about, like, singers should sing and fighters should fight. Like, that seems like some kind of really deep inherent wisdom that kind of reveals itself here. And she asks him, like, well, what do you want to know? And he kind of is like, everything. Like,
Yeah.
this dude is like, this is like gnosis a little bit.
What's cool about this is like this demonstrates the curiosity. And, you know, in Rome, whenever a a Roman slave would become a free man, he would learn the trivium first and then the quadrivium. So he's talking about, I want to know what happens, why the stars, where they fall to and why they fall and where the wind comes from, right? And if you were in that society, then when you did become free, you would learn the trivium and the quadrivium, and you would begin to understand why the world works the way that it does before you would learn about philosophy or anything. But you get to see that deep curiosity and that burning passion to understand the world and reality. And I think that's a really amazing display. I love how they put that out forefront. And he's so humble too, talking to this woman. And then she starts to tell him, the myth about it, which is pretty cool. That's my boy right there. What a ham cow.
No, I'm so far behind on these comments, but these are fire. Yeah, Top Gun is totally about gay. I know that's a Quentin Tarantino reference for anyone that doesn't get that. One of the best stories about Top Gun.
Funny, dude. Oh my god.
Yeah, dude. I mean, would there even be a Top Gun if there wasn't a Spartacus first to kind of set the path? I don't think there would be.
No, definitely not, dude. And I just watched the news Top Gun. I watched that.
As far as CIA programming goes, it is top tier. Like it made me want to go back and join the military all over again, even knowing what I know now.
Oh my god, you're like
Trump some Hajis, bro. Like I'm back onto Operation Iraqi Freedom. Let's go free the hell out of these people.
That's so good.
And then part of the thing, like I said before, he doesn't know anything other than conventional wisdom and maybe manual labor and how to fight. And he doesn't like the latter two. Like he likes the wisdom part, but he doesn't like fighting and he doesn't like the manual labor part. So one of the first things that when she asks him, like, well, what do you want to know? And he says everything. He says, I want to know where the wind comes from. And this is kind of baller because she starts dropping some hardcore knowledge on him. She says, well, the wind begins in a cave, and inside the cave, there's a young god that sleeps, and the young god is dreaming of a woman. And every time he thinks of the woman, he lets out this sigh, and that sigh becomes the wind. And I mean, I don't know all my Roman mythology to the T, but I know that Zeus was also rumored to have come from in a cave. He was the god of wind, and I believe that the cave was called like Zephon or something, or Mount Zephon. And here's this is like some deep part of it, but Baal Zephon, Mount Zephon, this is actually where they claim that Zeus himself like literally came from. Like he was born in this area, but at that point it wasn't Zeus, it was Baal Zephon, as in Baal, as in like the god. This is like Phoenician Carthaginian god. So it was the god of Zephon, the god of this mountain / cave. And this essentially morphs into Zeus. This is where Zeus comes from. Again, we're talking like Phoenician Carthaginian mysticism. So Spartacus is learning now about the real roots of this maritime, like seafaring mythology that you didn't get from Rome, because Rome wasn't about the Phoenician culture. In fact, they were trying to destroy the Phoenician culture, literally. And here it is. May Isis and Serapis bring victory to your cause. So this is
the pirate, right?
Yeah, this is one of the pirate dudes that ends up, reneging at the very end. And this is where this is all the areas they're going from. So you've got Rome here, and they're trying to make their way all the way to the southern tip of this boot, and they're explaining that they're kind of surrounded at this point. They've made their way all into this boot, but now they've got armies coming on both sides with their backs to the sea. And the premise is that Crassus is essentially trying to force them to have to go back upwards and into Rome. So I don't know, kind of a genius little point here. And this is sort of how the logistics really worked. Like they almost explain this like it's a chess moves, because it kind of is.
Right.
And this one, I thought this was really interesting too. That this guy says that he heard that Spartacus is this crazy noble. He comes from noble blood, and Spartacus tells him like, "Nah, dude." He's like, "I'm the son of a slave, and my grandpa was a slave. Like, we are just white trash, essentially. Like, I'm not a noble." And the guy explains to him that the Romans have to call Spartacus a noble because they can't admit that they're basically losing to like this lower class person. So
Right.
they elevate Spartacus to a place where he had never been before, just so that it doesn't look like they're losing so bad, I guess.
Yep. Yep.
They
Covered up.
They capture the dude, Glabrus. Here's the patsy. They find Lee Harvey Oswald in the book depository or the movie theater, wherever. They find his ass, and then they're like, he makes such a great point, man, because Gracchus is clearly afraid that they're gonna kill him, and he's looking around and he's like, "What are you afraid of, bro? You afraid we're gonna kill you?" And he's like, dying's not hard. In fact, it's one of the easiest things you can do. You don't have to worry about dying. You have to worry about what we're gonna have to put you through." And I assume that other things happened here that they didn't put into the movie, but they essentially throw him on a horse, they whip the horse, and they send his ass back to the Senate. And this is him. If you can see, he says, "This is the symbol of the Senate." And look, that's that fasci. It's that bundle of sticks that's wrapped around with a little cord, and it's got the little eagle on top.
Yep.
And he freaking breaks it, bro. He's like, "Yo, get this bundle of sticks out of here."
That's right.
Crack. I don't go that way. Like get your ass back to Rome and bring all this with you. So he does. There's an intermission.
I love that. I love it because it needs an intermission. It really does. It's 3 hours 20. It's like
could have used a couple intermissions.
Yeah.
So again, man, I couldn't get over this freaking checkerboard floor, which just stands out in the worst way. Like, it's so distracting to me. But yeah, and you've got the statue in the background of Rome, the little like Romulus and Remus. So although they're not in the photo, and you've got this crazy like jester looking ass wolf, and these two dudes with the fasci, right? And then I assume that in this little metal bowl here, that's where they put like the DMT, and they talk to the gods, the Oracle Delphi, the sulfur. And this guy is basically getting like reamed in front of all of these different senators. He comes back and he's like, "Yeah, he didn't want the bundle of sticks. I told him how cool it was." And they were like, "No, we're not into that." And they're basically asking, "Well, did you build a moat around your camp? Like, how did you get captured?" And the dude was like, "No, they're just slaves." Like, when he says that, everyone's like, "This guy is such an idiot. You are so dumb." But then he has a friend here, this guy, and he mentions, he has this phrase, and he's like, "Dude, if we penalized people, like anyone that ranked up in the military, every time they did something stupid, like we wouldn't have anyone. They would all just be peon." He would say they would all be centurions. So there's almost this aspect of like, yeah, just let it go. We all screw up every once in a while. We all make a pass at the wrong. And this guy's like, "Don't I know it, bro?" He's like, sometimes you make that pass and then you turn around and they just left. So like, yeah, let's let this guy off the hook. And literally he says that they're gonna exile Gracchus, but they're not gonna kill him. They're not gonna crucify him. But since he made this big boo-boo, he's gonna be exiled. He doesn't get fire, water, food, and shelter for 400 miles in all directions outside of Rome. Pretty serious, but you could just go somewhere else and make like a nice little life for yourself. And he kind of does that. That's sort of the premise. And then this dude shows up, and I don't know, he seems like the most practical, pragmatic politician, even of like today. And he makes this statement, and I don't know if they're talking about if this is Kubrick like coming at real Republicans or what, but he says, "I'll take a little Republican corruption along with a little Republican freedom." Hell yeah, brother. I mean, if that ain't American, I don't know what is.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. Yeah, well, he's not a fasci guy either, it seems like, right? Like the Republic is the whole idea. Well, I guess, I don't know. The Republic is really based on like a just leader, like a very
this guy. So again, I go like a little tongue in cheek, like I only half mean this, but yeah, he's not about the bundle of sticks.
Right.
In fact, this guy has a whole like consort of women. Like he's got a harem of women and he even makes a point of like all ages and sizes and shapes and weights, and like some are ugly and some are pretty. Like he just loves being surrounded by women. He doesn't like being surrounded by men. You know who likes being surrounded by men? Freaking Crassus, the guy that let the twink slip through his fingers, right? And he's the one that's like, no, we have to protect this guy. So I don't know. I think again, this is the bundle of sticks, fascist. He literally wants to be made this dictator of Rome, so he has full control. And this is the guy that's more like, hey, live and let be. You know, you got a little bit of corruption, you get a little bit of freedom out of it. Who are we to make a real big judgment call? So he kind of has these flexible morals,
checks and balances, right? Yeah.
Well, and it seems practical. Like he seems like the pragmatic version. Like it doesn't work for this dude. Like this guy does not have the answers.
Yeah, and he's a control freak too. You just, yeah.
There's a random sad scene where they just bury a dead baby.
Yeah, that was kind of sad for sure. But that's part of war. It's they're traveling through, and it's tough that there's like snow, and they're going through all these mountains and stuff. It's showing I think, just the struggle of the gladiator army here.
And you could also juxtapose this with what Romans, specifically Spartans, actually did with their babies, which was not to have like a nice little burial and weep for them and burying them on the side of the road. I believe they would just throw them off like the top of a mountain. That was, in fact, the Spartans have some of the earliest state-sponsored eugenics programs in all of human history, where it was like, oh, you've got a weak, oh, the cleft palate, off the mountain you go. Did you just sneeze? Off the mountain you go. Right? They very much were selectively breeding their children. So I think that's another part where they're saying like, look, we're not Spartans, we're not Romans, we actually care about human beings, and here's just another aspect of that. Now we got the grass. I don't know why this scene exists. It's a freaking hilarious scene, but they're milking this goat.
Oh yeah.
I want to know, like, was this in the script, or was this lady just like, I'm gonna squirt this little baby in the face with some freaking goat milk? And she does, and the kid's not expecting it. It seems a little bit unprompted, but I don't know why this is such an interesting moment of comedic relief, which there's really no other comedy in this entire movie.
Yeah, it seems out of place. I don't know. The one that I watched was, I think, the same one that you did and have screenshotted here, but it said that it had maybe 10 or 15 minutes of extras in it. So I don't know if this was maybe part of the original cut or maybe not, who knows. But yeah, it seemed pretty random, but yeah, there was a couple of moments where I laughed, but it was really just the juggle line, because that was funny. And then this weird, strange, I'm not going to say it. It's just, yeah.
And I think this is actually the Homelander origin story. I don't know if you watch The Boys, but this is Homelander growing up. And this dude, probably my favorite quote in the entire damn movie: Rome is an eternal thought in the mind of God. This is like the ultimate Roman emperor sort of flex, dude. Like, I'm not even here as a politician. I am a figment of God's imagination, and he put me here. And what more of a noble cause than to be sort of like defending the thoughts of God?
Yeah, I mean, that's like the ultimate argument, right?
Here's him trying to turn Caesar, and he's just kind of like, hey, Caesar, have you ever had a snail? And he's like, dude, enough with the snail talk. Get out of here, bro. Like, every time we come to the freaking bathhouse, why are you making the Roman bathhouses so gay? And he's like, just wait. But yeah, he makes a really good claim where he's trying to convince Caesar to sort of betray one of his friends, and Caesar's like, whoa, that's not me. And he's trying to make a case of like, well, would you rather betray Rome herself, or would you betray one of your friends? But again, this is Crassus talking about Rome, and he thinks of Rome as like a sexual partner. He doesn't think of it as like a mother. So there's not like a trust the family kind of aspect to this. And again, dude, this guy is the OG. He's the one that's like, yeah, fatties have all the fun. And he says politics is a practical profession. Like he's got all the answers within the context. And I think that he might be one of the few characters that truly knows his role in all of this. And he kind of scathes by like all the different crazy tragedies and all the corruption that's happening. This dude is a fish in the freaking water. Like, he knows how it all operates, and he makes it work for him. And I think that there's almost like a noble aspect to like the corrupt politician knowing that he's corrupt, continuing to be corrupt, but being like, hey, we don't want to rock the boat. Like, we got to stay in our lane. Like, my role is to be a corrupt politician, so I'm going to be the best corrupt politician I know how to do. And I really do think that there almost is like some nobility in that.
Yeah, I mean, he is. What do they say? Whatever you're going to be, be a good one. It reminds me of the Emerson quote when he's like, "A friend of mine asked me if the impulses of mine might be from below," and he's like, "Well, if I'm the devil's child, I'll just be the child of the devil." You know what I mean? But he really is the most level-headed and practical, and he makes a deal here to like get Spartacus out, but just Spartacus, right? Like not the whole army.
Yeah, and they clearly don't know Spartacus well enough if they think that Spartacus would be down for that.
Right.
Yeah, like Hall & Oates famously said, "My crew can't go for that."
Right. No can do.
No can do. And so this is his fatty friend, and they're both like, "Yeah, bro, we're living life." And this guy is also the original trainer of Spartacus. When the movie very first starts, he's the guy that picks Spartacus out from the lineup and trains him. So he almost starts taking credit. He's like, he literally, like, I'm paraphrasing, but he says something to the effect of like, "Yeah, I taught him everything he knows." He's trying to take all this credit, and it's like, bro, we know that you don't even lift, bro. So don't try and take this credit away from Spartacus. But he was there on the ground floor, and he's sort of the corrupt politician in training. He's like, this guy's the mentor, and this dude is sort of the entered apprentice. Like he's learning how to be a good corrupt politician and what goes into it. And he makes this a line that's just like, "I'm even more of a civilian than most civilians." And the reason he's saying this is he's talking to Crassus, and Crassus is like, "Yeah, you're gonna be with us until this whole entire military operation is over, and then you can go home." And the dude's like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! Like I should be able to go home right now. Like I'm not part of this. I'm not in the military. I'm a civilian. I'm more civilian than civilians are." He's like, "Look at my hands, bro. It's like marshmallow. Like there's no calluses anywhere on these hands because he deals in white slaves, which is okay because they're white." And that's kind of like his role in this movie, is that he's like the baby version of this corrupt politician, but he's the boots on grounds corruption. Towards the end, they have like a full-on battle scene, and this was the one that my substitute teacher was like, "Let's pause it and watch this again," like because he kept showing the freaking fire rolls. Like it's a badass scene, man.
It is.
For whatever reason, this part, I thought that this was like a 2-hour long battle scene, and there was all this emphasis on it because this is all I remembered from the movie originally. It is still really badass, but this was way quicker than I remembered it being, and there was almost no like fanfare leading up to it. It was just like, okay, here's a battle scene. Oh my god, is that fire? And then yeah, hell yeah, it's fire. It's rolling over these dudes.
Yeah, dude. It is a badass scene. It's very like Braveheart. Reminded me of Braveheart a lot.
This also, not to get all like PETA on you and stuff, but like there's a few movies that I remember growing up with, and then I learned about them later, and I was like, "Ooh, I don't know if I feel great about this." Milo and Otis is one where they were literally throwing cats and dogs off of a waterfall, and they were dying, and they would shoot it again, and they'd kill another cat, and they would do it again. Like that one's pretty rough. You look up the actual shooting process of Milo and Otis. They had a few Milos and a few Otises for that reason. Holy Mountain, maybe to a lesser degree with all the frogs and the iguanas and stuff that are blowing up and stuff. But and the reason that I bring this up is because in this scene, they're showing these like horses, bro, and like the horses are going at full speed, and then all of a sudden they'll just fall and they'll tumble. And there was a scene where like the horse falls on a dude. There was a scene where a horse runs into another horse, knocks that horse over, and falls on top of it. And all I can think of is they had to put at least one to like someone turned into glue at the end of this particular scene, because I just don't see how they could have had all these horses knocking into each other and not turn one into Elmers.
Yeah, I mean, this is before disclaimers, like, this is probably the reason why disclaimers,
So
No
yeah,
one will
maybe
harm
PETA
you.
does some good, even though like you can't eat like crickets anymore on TV, right? Because crickets have souls, and they do. I don't know if this is YouTube safe. Probably not. This might actually get taken off YouTube. But it's just a scene. It's just a scene from the freaking Spartacus movie.
1960. Come on.
Again, you've got this like 2D matte painting background that gets like very flat. But just the scale that they're trying to portray here is pretty massive. Like this is pretty nuts scene. And then the scene, right? This is like the big payoff where he stands up and they're all Spartacus and they thought this was such a flex. And then it's like, oh, well, I guess I'll just kill you all. Do you think anyone here was like, wait a minute. I'm not Spartacus. I forgot. I'm not Spartacus after all. I just found my ID. My name's actually Dave. I don't know what I was thinking.
I mean, yeah. But again, I guess the point is it's better to die a free man than to live a slave.
Yeah. So someone asked in the chat, better to die on your feet or on your knee. I forgot how the freaking quote goes.
Better to die on your feet or live on your knees.
There you go. Yeah. I don't know. Are we talking knee pad? Are we talking like Kamala Harris style knee pads, or do you have to like? Are you like a Walmart cashier that does not allowed to have a stool?
Right.
Right. And Sherry, I'm not fun to watch movies with, but it's not because I'm annoying. It's because I just like totally clam up and I just go into my own little world. And in fact, I sleep through movies like especially if it's in a movie theater and you turn the lights off. Like I don't care how much I like the movie, how exciting it is. I fell asleep in every horror movie that I've seen in the last 2 decades. I went to the Jason Resurgence movie. I had like a Jason shirt on. I got like a Jason, like I was Jasoned out because I was like so into Friday the 13th. And I show up. I think this is one of my first dates with my girlfriend too. We show up, we go into the movie. She's got like all of her friends there. And I swear, like 15 minutes in, apparently I was just like snoring. I was sawing logs super loud in this packed theater. And all of her friends are like, what's this weirdo that you brought? Is he sleeping? And I'm all like, totally. Yeah. So maybe not the most fun person to watch movies with, but I can decode the hell out of them. Like I'm better at reviewing movies afterwards.
I'm actually worse. I predict what's going to happen, which is actually much, much worse. Like,
It's super annoying. I have to say the person that talks about what's going to happen in the movie, it's like, dude, shut up. Watch the freaking movie.
I know. Well, like my producer mind. And I'm like, oh, here's how they did that, and I'm like trying to like, in my mind, I'm like, oh, here's how they cast the scene. Here's how they did the special, all that stuff. So it's like, it's even worse. It's like, can you just suspend disbelief, bro, for like a second? Stop trying to deconstruct reality. We are tired of this.
Like we're here to watch a movie, not to hear you talk about how movies are made. What a jerk.
What a dick.
Also, especially like a 3-hour long movie like this, and even in Spartacus, as I was watching it, I don't know, maybe this is just me. I'm sure a lot of people are like this, but like I'll be reading a book and I'll be like a few pages in and all of a sudden I'll be like, oh crap, I've been thinking about like something in my real life, even though I've been looking at the words and turning pages. I'm like, I don't think I just read the last 3 pages. I was thinking about like if like how I'm gonna get that part for the lawnmower that I have to fix or whatever, right? I'm thinking about how, oh, did I see that cheaper? I'm like, oh crap, I'm not even reading. So you have to go back and like reread the pages. I 1,000,000% do that in movies too. And that definitely annoys people. Like if I'm watching a movie with my girlfriend, we'll be watching it. And then like 15 minutes will go by and I'll just be like, oh crap, I wasn't I would like have some random thought and I'm just like thinking about something and I'm missing all the plot points. So I have to constantly stop and rewind or pause it. And like, so yeah, it's a horrible experience. That also, I don't like movie theaters. Like I wish there was a pause button for that exact reason. The dude, again, the most practical politician in here. He's grown up with a mentor, and the guy is telling him this is some straight up wisdom, man. Like someone is in Bush's or someone's in Trump's ear that was telling him this too. He's like, look, bro, in Rome, dignity shortens your life. Like you can't actually have dignity and be a politician because those two things are incompatible. So you need to, if you want to be good at being a politician, you also have to be good at not having dignity, in not just like a absolute Philistine kind of way, but that you actually need to have some kind of thought behind your loss of dignity. And then this dude again with the in the room with the fasci in it. We don't have a fasci in this shop, but he says if they falter one instant in loyalty to the new world order is what I'm going to read into this. But this is Rome, dude. This is the new world order, the Senate, like the system that we've got now. It's all kind of started by Crassus. And then there you go. That's the freaking Spartacus movie.
Yeah, they crucify him, but he does get to see his son, you know, and also Spartacus does get to spit in the face. He does a little hawk tua on that dude, you know, on is it Crassus? Yeah, at the
Not
end.
a best payoff if you're Spartacus. It's like, yeah, you spin his face, but you're gonna get crucified.
Yeah, yeah. But at least while he's getting crucified, he does get to see, you know, he does get to see his son when his wife and son get snuck out by that, like the mentee of the practical politician guy that owned him in the first place, right? And they sneak him out. So yeah. So from an internal metaphor, you know, it's like I said, like the Bhagavad Gita, if you take this and you internalize it, I think it's a really beautiful story. I think it says a lot about the human spirit and evolution, growth, overcoming challenges, a lot about the masculine spirit. Like it's very well written from a hero's journey. And there's a lot of little truth drops. It's like you said, there's a lot of little good quotes and stuff. You know, there's a moment where he's with his wife and he's talking to her and he's being very vulnerable. And she's like, well, you need to be strong enough to be weak, you know? And all he wants is for his son to be born free. So he does get to see his son born free, sneaking out of Rome. So like that new baby, that new life is Spartacus from an internalized metaphor perspective. And it goes on to become a free person. So it's pretty dope. Yeah, you don't need to watch it now. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I absolutely fell asleep during Spartacus. That was the whole, yeah. I mean, it took, I think I watched, yeah, you did too, right?
Oh yeah. Last night, dude, I couldn't do, I mean, I was underslept. I mean, as much as I love this movie and I really, really do, I have a passion for it, but yeah, I mean, I couldn't 3.5 hours, man. It's just not going to happen. No way. I couldn't even make it through Top Gun. And that was like, you know, super gay. So.
Yeah, this one took a while. And actually, I think I ended up watching this movie 3 times to get some of my notes together. Cause I didn't really, again, the first time I watched it, like my mind was like drifting everywhere. I'm taking notes and like I'm missing stuff. So I watched it again at double speed, which I like. That was so hard because I had to focus on it way harder so that I wouldn't miss anything. I think I got to the intermission. I was like, I need to take a nap. Like I actually stopped what I was doing and I went and took a nap because it was just so much damn Spartacus at 2x. And then I just finished watching it about 10 minutes before we started this live stream, watching it 1x again, but specifically so I could get some of those screenshots and a bunch of the bundle of sticks jokes together.
Man, you nailed it. It was awesome. Like I only watched it the one time. I was going to watch it twice, but I fell asleep watching it last night and finished it this afternoon. It was really good, but you know, just a lot of beauty, like a lot of love. And like I said, from the internalized metaphor perspective, you could say that, you know, he's the masculine mind and his wife is the feminine, you know, spirit, and they connect. And there's a moment where he says to her, like, there will never be a farewell between us. You know, she's worried about him being taken away from him and and all this stuff. It's like, there's some really, really, really beautiful moments. And yeah, you know, and Ham Cow in here, he's saying, you know, I guess I don't have to watch it now. I still recommend watching it. You know, I'd love to hear what other people think. Cause like I said to you, I love the way your mind works and the way that you analyze stuff. You're going to see things in symbols and things that I'm lost. I'm a simpleton, you know, for me, I see everything in esoteric, masculine, feminine, you know, conscious, subconscious mind, you know, blah, 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 you know, it's like, well, you know, it's simple, but it works. And to me, it's beautiful. You know, I love it when heart and mind are in coherence. Like that's really, I think, what most esoteric stuff really boils down to. And I think this movie is a particularly good example of that.
And I guess maybe this is devil's advocate in some way, but if you had to say all of Hollywood is a psyop, every movie that's ever come out is the CIA trying to program you and beat down your spirit. If that's the lens that you have to put on to come up with analysis of this movie, they're basically spending 3 hours of time. One of the best directors, the best freaking actor at this part. Like this was Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone, like wrapped up in one, right? Kirk Douglas was like the dude when this came out. So this would have been an absolutely epic movie to see. So you spend 3 hours plus for the CIA Hollywood industrial complex to tell you, don't bother, we're going to get you. Well, like even if you get every white slave together and you all revolt, and even if you make your way all the way to the border and you get all the militias on your side, you're still going to lose. We just have too much number. Like, there's just no way you're going to get around this. We will crucify you. You will die. And no one's going to really remember your real story. And in fact, the real Spartacus also dies in 71. Not 1971, but like literally just the year 71, kind of like the ultimate flex to be like, no. So he dies in 71 at the hand of Crassus, allegedly, but he doesn't really get any fanfare as being crucified. Like, they just were like, oh yeah, he went into this battle and he never came back out. I guess he died there. And that's sort of where the legend of Spartacus fizzles out. So the rest of this gets built around that.
Well, I can add an angel's advocate perspective, I guess, to do the opposite, which is, they talk about how they want to stamp out not just Spartacus, but the memory of him. But at the end of the movie, his son lives on and is born free. So that memory is going to live on and it never dies. And the indomitable human spirit carries on and wins the Super Bowl. Tom Brady, baby, let's fucking go.
Then go to Disney World. And you're not wrong, dude. You're actually totally right. We're gonna have to do Angel's Advocate on this, because even after they get caught and Spartacus is talking to Antonius, and Spartacus, kind of paraphrasing, says something like, yeah, but look what we were able to do. We were able to get like 10, not just like me and you stood up, but we got like tens of thousands of other people to stand up. And that in itself is kind of a victory, because it shows how well people can stand up, and then everybody dies.
Right. Well, everybody dies at the end. I can spoil every movie, like if we take it far enough. But like, Kali is going to stand on your corpse and hold your head in her hand. There's no way we're getting away from the end. The end is the end. It's going to be like that no matter what. So we might as well make it count as much as we can. Again, that's why I just resonate so much with this particular movie. I think it's a beautiful example of humanity and all the, virtuous values of a strong, indomitable will. That's like, you know what? I'm going to fight no matter what. It's like, I don't care. It doesn't matter. May as well. Is like they said in the chat, better to live on your feet than to die on your knees.
I would say my recommendation would be that you watch Spartacus first, and then you watch Gladiator. If you haven't seen either of them, chances are you've probably seen Gladiator. If you haven't seen Gladiator, watch Spartacus first before you see Gladiator, because Gladiator is almost like seeing the TikTok cut of Spartacus in so many ways. They're both, I think they're both like 3-hour movies. They both kind of have the same premise. Slave turns into a gladiator, fights back against the system. Although it turns out marginally better for Gladiator, maybe not. I don't know. I guess they all kind of end horribly for anyone that stands up against the state, which I guess is that psyop aspect. But they are some of like the most invigorating movies. Like I saw this and I literally wanted to start another January 6th. Like, I'm planning another January 6th
Yes!
just because I saw Spartacus.
Dude, I've been doing the Stairmasters at the gym just for that reason. Let's go.
I'm going to put my feet up on that desk so hard, bro. Just you wait.
No, dude, I'll be right there beside you, homie. Let's get a what do you call those things?
Lectern?
Podium. Yeah.
We'll get the lectern guy up in here.
I'm going to get some horns. Let's fucking go.
I honestly, if we ever get into the Senate building, I'm not going for the lectern, bro. I'm going for one of those big golden fasci. You know what I mean? I'm gonna like try and break it in my hands. I won't be able to because I'm not Kirk Douglas.
I'm just gonna find a desk and poop on it and hope it's Pelosi.
Also, fun fact: I was meaning to bring this up a little bit earlier, but Spartacus was the actual code name of Adam Weishaupt of the Bavarian Illuminati. That one of the things that you would do when you join the Bavarian Illuminati is you would have to take on some sort of like a name that would be like your code name. And the leader of the Bavarian Illuminati, his code name was Spartacus.
That's awesome.
So Illuminati confirmed.
Well, dude, we talked about that. Like, we talked about that when you did the whole Illuminati history that was on my channel or show, whatever.
Yeah, check that out. It was like the Illuminati self-defense course or something.
Yeah,
that was
so
really
good.
cool.
Yeah, you did like a history. We did like a 3-parter, and it was, man, that was dense and all about really like marketing funnels. Basically, it was like the original marketing funnel. Oh yeah, can everybody just sound off in the chat like I'm Spartacus? Oh my god, it's so.
No, I'm Spartacus.
I'm Spartacus.
They're actually that scene. They were actually gaslighting the real Spartacus. It had nothing to do with like trying to save him. They were just messing with him. Like, you're not Spartacus. No, no, no,
Right.
no.
Who do you think you are, dude? No.
We need to get you back to the home, Grandpa. Come on.
He's like trolling. Stop trolling me, dude. Come on.
So I guess perfect way to do a little quick shout out that I've been working on a Illuminati pamphlet which breaks down some of that Spartacus and other cool Illuminati facts. If that's interesting to you, you should go to illuminaticomic.com. We've just got a little landing page there right now where you can sign up to be notified when that comic book launches. It's a collaboration that I'm doing with Donut, and we've been working on it for the last year plus. It's in the works right now. Like, the artist is literally drawing sketches of all the Illuminati pamphlet pages, and he's sending them to us like every other day or something. So as soon as it's done, we're going to probably wait to get at least 500 signups to that page. I think we're around like 80 now. So if you want that thing to be a real thing out in the world and manifest physically, then we're kind of counting on you to go to illuminaticomic.com and just sign up. You don't have to even pay anything. You just go there and sign up. And once we get enough people signed up, we will drop the damn thing. And then you'll know everything you could ever know about the Bavarian Illuminati. So right now. What do you got to hawk tonight? What's your pyramid scheme all about lately?
Well, I'm starting a new cult, if anybody's interested. Right now, I don't have a formal offer, but I'm working on some things. If anybody's interested in talking to me about what their needs are, what they're interested in, I'm not, like I said, I don't have anything formal, but I'm working on something. I don't want to let too much of a cat out of the bag. I am collaborating with a couple folks and very, very excited to be bringing something to the market. It will be in the realm of like coaching, type of thing. Basically, yeah, like again, it's a cult. So let's just call it what it is. But but it'll be a lot of fun. I've got a live stream this week with a lady named Barry. She is someone who's like a personal style consultant out of Austin, Texas. Very interesting, unique perspective she has regarding consciousness and how to express yourself, self-express yourself outwardly that matches your inner self, so that'll be a fun stream. That's Tuesday at 5:30, I want to say, something like that. I'm on Instagram, I'm on YouTube at Bootsy Greenwood all over. My podcast is called Blue Collar Mystics. Please check it out. I've got a lot of different varied types of content, and I'm going to have a banger of a video later this week talking about consciousness, the levels of consciousness through David Hawkins' map. I've been actively experimenting and noticing myself and how I kind of travel through these states. And I can give some pointers about how to figure out where you're at on the map and how to get higher in those states of consciousness based on his map. So I'll be breaking that stuff down a little bit later. And I've got the Kabbalion came out. I just did a redux of it, like a remix, and dropped that. Check it out. It's free on YouTube. It's free without ads on my Patreon channel. And then it's on Audible, Spotify, all the streaming platforms. Please leave a review if you like it and you check it out. I wanted to make it a little bit more consumable and straightforward and maybe a little bit less cryptic, if you will, for an esoteric book. So that's pretty much about what I got right now. At Bootsy Greenwood, check me out. Thank you so much. Everybody in the chat, y'all are amazing. Thank you, Thomas, for having me. And thanks for doing this, because I know this was a bit unorthodox in the sort of Kubrick realm. So I appreciate you making this a possibility. I really enjoyed the time, man. Thank you.
It counts, man. That's another reason, too, that you should watch Spartacus movie, because it is a Kubrick movie, and you do have that Kubrick cinematography. Like, the shots are amazing. They've got restored versions of this thing, so it's not like you're watching some old crusty classroom sort of projector movie. Like, it's a legit epic ass movie with great acting and great storyline, everything. There was a comment too. I do agree that classic movies, the pacing's usually a little bit all over the place, and sometimes it's like they spent all this money for a set design. They're like, no, we're gonna have a 20-minute speech here. This movie doesn't have that. This movie, the pacing is pretty damn phenomenal. Even though it's over 3 hours, it's a tight 3 hours. Like, it's scene. There's not a lot of just like wasting time. Again, classic sort of Kubrick style. And I have to give another shout out to the series that you did with Abby too. One of my favorite, the reality transurfing series. So I think that was, and you guys just wrapped that up recently too. That was a really long one.
Yeah, it was like 20 episodes or something like that. But we went through the whole entire book and broke a bunch of that stuff down. It's an awesome book. I think all the esoteric stuff, it really comes back to the same fundamental principles for the most part. But that's a really cool perspective. It's like a Russian mystic guy who's like also a quantum physicist who wrote that book. And the way that he explains things is slightly different. The Kabbalion, you can read it and you can get the same kind of information, but it's just a shift in the perspective, I think, that makes it really kind of land, because from a quantum perspective, everything already exists, right? In infinity. So instead of being like, I've got to create this reality or whatever, it's like, dude, relax. It already exists in the ether, like in the space of alternates is what he calls it, or in infinity. So it's really a matter of what he calls choosing, which, you know, it's pretty straightforward. There's a lot of different techniques that we talk about, the idea of energy and how to maximize your energy in the body. So it's a really fun book. It really tied the room together for me from an individualistic sort of spiritual perspective. It kind of mixes both. So if people are into that, that's great. A lot of those same lessons are in the Bhagavad Gita, Kabbalion, Self-Reliance by Emerson, As a Man Thinketh, and all those. The Tao Te Ching, all those books, by the way, all available on my channel. If you like spiritual books, I like reading them. I'll read them to you, so you don't have to. Please check me out. Those books, and let's fucking party.
Will you rock us to sleep as you read them?
Yes, dude, absolutely. Yeah, I will whisper in your ear and ask you how much you like snails.
I guess speaking of parting note, as you guys exit the theater and into the lobby, we have oysters, Rockefeller, and escargot for everyone. We'll be taking a tally on which of you like oysters and which of you like snails. No secret, when in Rome. And I guess the whole reason that we're doing this movie and all the other Kubrick movies, I've got a bunch of other live streams lined up tentatively. Like if I knew when, I would tell you when, but not sure when we're going to do them all yet. But we're going to end up doing the movie Moonwalkers, going to end up doing Fly Me to the Moon. And I'm trying to do the rest of the Kubrick movies. There's a freaking lot of them, but we're going to see if probably end up having to do Eyes Wide Shut, Clockwork Orange, recently did The Shining. More of these Kubrick live streams. So if you like this, come and hang out with us, post silly things in the chat. And ultimately, this is just a big 2-hour shill for my freaking NASA comic book. So go to nasacomic.com, get a 40-page comic book about Stanley Kubrick directing the moon landings, and it's got all sorts of inside jokes and references, Spartacus included. There are some Spartacus related Easter eggs inside the NASA comic. So nasacomic.com, there's literally 11 days left to snag either the foil or the variant cover. I've even got like a little Apollo 11 embroidered patch ironed on in there. Cool stuff that you won't ever be able to find again. If you're listening to this in the future and you missed it, that's fine. You can probably still go to nasacomic.com and get a copy of the main cover. But it's seriously, if you like Kubrick, if you like conspiracy, if you like comics, it's got all three of those in spades, and it's unique as hell. Like, I honestly don't think you'll ever find a better Stanley Kubrick moon landing comic book. And I don't think that's too many qualifiers to make it too niche. Like, it's the coolest topic ever. And I've got a freaking comic on it. So go and support your boy.
Do it. Support.
All right, we're out of here, man. I'm going to play a couple little NASA ads and my sticker ads. You know the deal. So hang around or don't hang around. Come back for the next one, though. And Owen, man, thanks for hanging out with me.
Dude, my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. It was a joy.
All right, peace, y'all. Hey, thank you for watching / listening to another episode of whatever you're listening to. Paranoid American Podcast, Occult Disney, Paranoid Programming, Sound Science. There's a bunch of them, but whatever it is, I appreciate that you're listening / watching to this right now. And if you really want to support Paranoid American, if you didn't know this, in addition to being a podcast, we've actually been publishing comics since 2012. So over a decade. While I was still at Disney, I started this company to publish a little book called Time Samplers, and it's exploded into 60 different titles at this point. And the biggest one just launched, at least at the time of recording this, but it's at nasacomic.com, stands for Never a Straight Answer, and it's about Stanley Kubrick directing the moon landings. And I just want to show you some of the cool kind of exclusive things you can get by backing this thing early. So if you go to nasacomic.com, it'll automatically bring you to this Kickstarter page. And you can see, bam, hit our goal at the time of recording this, 100%. So it's definitely going to be made. So you'll absolutely get a copy of this thing if you back it. If you're listening to this in the future and this page isn't here or brought you somewhere else, then likely you can just buy it right now. So you have to skip all this and just buy the damn thing. But here's a couple little previews of artwork. Here's different variant covers that are for offered. This top left one, I actually have in print. I got a couple of prototypes printed up just to make sure that it would look good. It looks great, looks amazing, full color, gloss pages. It's got a nice hefty weight to it because it's 40 different pages of all unique art that you haven't seen before. There's also going to be a variant cover. There's going to be a hollow foil cover. And then there's a little postcard print that anybody that gets a physical copy of the comic in any form, they're going to end up getting this postcard size print here. Here's some different artwork samples from the 3 different artists that contributed to this book. And then here's the important part, the rewards. So by backing this project, you're going to get to pick some different kind of reward tier. The entry level one is this digital deluxe, which has the entire book in digital form. You'll get a PDF. It's also going to have an additional 8 different pages that aren't in any of the print versions just because they were maybe some were a little too spicy, maybe some were a slightly different art style, but I'm going to give all that in the digital deluxe along with some wallpapers and some MP3s and stuff. If you want the print one that I was just holding up here, then the entry for that one is $15. With that, you're going to get that little postcard print I mentioned. You're going to get a trading card. You're going to get a bookmark, and you'll probably get some other stuff because I always throw in extra freebies. You can ask anyone that's bought anything from Paranoid American. I hook it up with lots of extras. If you want the variant cover, which is only available in this campaign, there's a $19 tier for that. It also comes with an extra sticker. If you want the hollow foil, then that one is $29. These ones are going to be super limited. Like, these won't exist outside of this campaign for the next 30 days. So if you are listening to this in the future, sorry you missed out. You might be able to snag one in an upcoming campaign if there's extras. But if you really want this hollow foil, and you should, you can get it right now for $29. And then we've got a couple other tiers after that. We've got a 55th anniversary special for $55. That has the main cover and the foil cover and a sticker sheet and some other goodies. Here's the best value, basically. There's a $99 Cosmic Conspiracy tier, over 40% off of all the different things that are included. So this one's going to come with the main cover, the variant cover, the hollow foil cover, 3 or 4 different sticker sheets. It's going to come with 6+ stickers. It has the trading card, a bookmark. It has a custom Paranoid American Room 237 keychain. And I think the highlight of this is it's going to come with this custom embroidered Stanley Kubrick patch based on the Apollo 11 design. And if you keep scrolling down, you can see all the other extra reward tiers. All of the different items are going to be described in more detail. And I want to show you this patch right here. It's a 3-inch embroidered iron-on patch. You can put it on your Molex bag. You can put it on, anything, hats, backpacks. This is the first time we've ever done one of these custom patches, so I'm really excited about that. There's also a custom fake moon landing playset that you can select as an add-on when you go to check out. So speaking of, let's say that you're sold, you want to get a copy, you want to help support Paranoid American, you haven't used Kickstarter before, the easiest thing to do is you just click on this back this project button on the page. It's both at the very top of the screen and it's at the top of the page. So you can click either one, back this project. And from here, it's going to be like a typical checkout. You're going to select which of these different tiers you want. Again, I highly recommend this $99 Cosmic Conspiracy combo. It's going to have every single thing that the campaign has to offer that's exclusive to this NASA book. You click on that, you pick the country that you're in, and then you just click on the pledge button. There's one extra last step where it's going to ask you if you want to do any add-ons, if you want to throw in like a trading card pack or another keychain or anything else. You can get some huge discounts on the backlog of Paranoid American comics. But let's say you're done with that, you click continue. And then finally, if you don't already have a Kickstarter account, you'll be prompted to make one. You can link it to Facebook. The rest of the flow is just like any typical checkout online. So I really appreciate if you would take a look. Please just back the comic, back nasacomic.com. Anyways, back to your regularly scheduled programming.
Spread the word with propaganda packs, all for just $40 shipped at paranoidamerican.com.
Paranoid propaganda packs. We got facts on these sticker slaps. So grab yourself a stack and go attack with these paranoid propaganda packs.
These huge all-weather slaps will last in public for years to come. Remind citizens that birds are not real. Self-immolation is an option, and might make you magnetic. Do your part and get a propaganda pack today from paranoidamerican.com.
Yeah, paranoid propaganda packs. We got facts on these sticker slaps. So grab yourself a stack and go attack with these paranoid propaganda packs.
What are you waiting for? Go to paranoidamerican.com right now and get a paranoid propaganda pack.
Paranoid. Yo. I scribble my life away, driven to write the page. Will it enlighten your brain? Give you the flight, my plane, paper the highs ablaze. Somewhat of an amazing feel when it's real to real. You will engage it. Your favorite, of course, the Lord of an arrangement. I gave you the proper results to hit the pavement. If they get emotional, hate, maybe a language, a game, how they playing it well without Lakers. Evade them, whatever the cost, they are the shapeshift. Snakes get decapitated, met is the apex. Execution of flame you out, nuclear bomb distributed at war, rather gruesome for eyes to see. Max them out, then I light my trees. Blow it off in the face, you're despising me for what though? Calculated and rather cutthroat. Paranoid American must be all the blunt smoke for real. Lord, give me a day away, vacate. They wait around to hate whatever they say. Man, it's not in the least bit. We get heavy rotate when the beat hits, so thank us, you're welcome. Fuck the niggas for real, you're welcome. They ain't never had a deal, you're welcome. Man, they lacking appeal, you're welcome. Yet they doing it still, you're welcome.